Basketball is my life. I have nothing else.
This is incredible. This is the best game before I've ever heard.
Shooters. That's what we do.
Shooters, a basketball podcast. Let's go.
And welcome back to the podcast, baby. We're back. We're live, and we're talking about how much water do you drink in a day? Because I've got a big water bottle, 2 liters, and I drink 2 of them. Darren, how much water do you drink a day?
I was afraid you'd ask that question next. I wouldn't have a clue. I have one of these. I don't know how many. It should say actually. I don't know. A few of these a day. Maybe you can be the judge. What do you reckon's in that?
It probably looks about like that looks pretty big. A liter, 1.2.
Yeah, nice. This is a thrilling opening to episode 20, but we're psyched to be here. I'm happy to be here. Sydney just won the championship. You're still doing your thing in Germany. Where do we start?
Well, I think we start with what the people want to hear, and that's the grand final series. Because I tell you what, Game 5 it went down to the wire. You were lucky enough to be at both games, the Game 4 and Game 5. So I think let's hear, before we break down the basketball side of it, let's hear a little bit about your adventure, kind of how it all played out, the flights you were on, some of the media work you did, and some of the photos you enjoyed taking.
I like it. Yeah, as you said, I was lucky enough to be both Sydney and New Zealand. Sydney especially cool because obviously anytime you get to witness the team winning the championship, especially on the home floor, is super cool. I always wonder what the atmosphere would have been like if New Zealand won that, just to see what, I don't know, it's going to be a different feeling in the building, obviously. But yeah, travelled to both. Only one flight delayed, which is always nice. Nice. Yeah, I don't know. Both atmospheres were super cool. I wanted to talk to you specifically about the New Zealand atmosphere because I did make a comment to you. I was just like, I was basically relating it back to the Tasmania crowd from last season. I was like, when I was at the Tasmania game, I don't know what game it was against Sydney, probably Game 3 or 2. It was probably 2. Yeah. I was just like, this might be the best crowd I've ever witnessed, and like the sort of. Oh, thank you. Jess has just delivered a nice banana milkshake. Anyway, nice. As we go. Yeah, I said to you, Tassie was probably the loudest crowd I've been to, but I reckon, much to your despair, I reckon New Zealand may have been louder, or it might just be recency bias. I don't know. But how do you feel about those comments?
Well, I know that we've got a lot of Jackies fans here, so that means next year when we make the grand final, we've got some competition to live up to, but I mean, I know that they can fit quite a few more people. There's about 8,000 people in the arena. And I can't speak on experience because in the semi-finals, it definitely wasn't as jumping as what the Jackies has been at. But was there any moment that stood out in particular, like a play that occurred where the crowd went crazy and you were like, wow, this is the real deal?
I think it has to be that Barry Brown dunk on the break. That was just crazy once it happened, and I was standing directly behind the New Zealand bench, which was kind of good and bad because when it happened, I actually didn't really see it. Like, I just stuck my camera up in the air because I wanted to video it as best I could, and then as soon as it happened, their bench just went crazy, jumping up and down. So I actually missed the dunk, except my camera caught a bit of it. It was just very shaky footage. But yeah, they erupted, so it was super cool. And you asked before about one of the photos or something that I was maybe happiest with, and it was the first thing I posted, and it was that one of Xavier Cooks and his daughter. It was just a really cool moment after everyone had basically sort of like left the arena during their celebrations. They went backstage or somewhere else in the locker room, and for whatever reason, Xavier came out onto the court with his daughter. No other media there, which was super cool because there was so many cameras and stuff during the game. And I was lucky enough to only capture that photo by myself. So yeah, that was a special moment, just him and his daughter and me on the sidelines. But hey, it's cool at the same time.
Epic. So I may have this wrong. Game 5, was that the largest crowd ever, or was Game 3?
I think so. Yeah, that's the other thing. Game 3 was, and then Game 5 overtook it.
Wow, so 2 game-breaking, largest NBL crowds ever. I don't have the exact numbers, but it was 18,000 in that area ballpark for both of them. What was that like to be a part of sitting there with 18,000 people kind of wanting the same goal, working towards Sydney Kings going back-to-back championships. Was it? Did you have any surreal moment when you had to look around and you went, "Wow, there is a lot of people in this building to cheer on some basketball"?
Yeah, no, it was super cool. I think it was kind of weird because I've never been to the Sydney Arena before. Like, that was my first time, so just getting there even pre-game when there was absolutely no one there. Looking around, people say it's sort of like the most NBA-like arena we have in the NBL. I haven't been to Perth or anything, so my experience is limited, but yeah, super sort of big, nice establishment. But it was kind of a different atmosphere than like Tassie or New Zealand, because Tassie and New Zealand are kind of like, it feels more enclosed and less people, but that kind of makes it louder in a sense. To me, anyway. Even though there was 18,000 people, Sydney was still super loud, but because it's so big, it kind of, yeah, like, I don't know, sort of like echoes around the entire stadium rather than like drowning you in that one spot, if that makes any sense at all.
No, it does. It's interesting you say that, because when you say the NBA-like arena, it's actually not a compliment. It may sound like one where it looks nice and it's big, but a lot of season games, when you get 7,000 people, it's noticeable how empty the arena feels. And that's no discredit to Sydney. That's just working in such a huge environment where in, say, the Jack Jumpers, for example, you get a sellout of 4,800 and it's jumping, it's rocking, the whole place feels alive. It has a different type of aura. And that's where so many college atmospheres in America are so much better and more exciting. And you go to these smaller gyms where the wooden floors rattle when people stamp their feet, and you hear about these stories. You got the tin walls that echo all the noise and kind of creates these wild experiences. I remember playing Adelaide 36ers. They used to play in an arena, Titanium, which only held 4,000 people. It was an old, shaky gym, worn down. But the atmosphere, I remember a lot of fans weren't happy when they moved to the entertainment center, which was about 10,000. It ended up being the right move. Help, they were selling out crowds this year of 10,000, the biggest crowds ever. But in that first place, you could see where it loses a little bit of that little edge compared to these massive arenas. But saying that, when it comes down to a Game 5 in a grand final, it does give you the chance to hold 18,000 people to cheer on a basketball game, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, so I was just going to say that's a very good point. Like, it's kind of a funny comparison, like whether you, as a club, I guess it depends where you're located, what your fan base and everything is like, but it's kind of like, would you prefer that big sort of sophisticated arena with like much more room or much more people in capacity, or would you prefer that sort of that smaller arena where, like you said, you're going to sell out a bit more times, and no matter what game it is, the atmosphere is probably going to be there? So good discussion point, I reckon. It
definitely is. I mean, marketing 101 is create a commodity that's hot and feel desired, and I guess the smaller arenas naturally do that. But that's not what we're here to talk about, marketing tactics. That's,
well, it can be. It can be.
Yeah, it can be. We could start a whole different podcast. But Game 5, it was obviously a battle. Break it down. We'll break it down a little bit, quarter by quarter. You were there. Quarter 1, New Zealand jumped the gun and were looking good. What were your thoughts? How was the crowd and atmosphere? What was going on in that building?
Yeah, they definitely like jumped out to a quick start, didn't they? So it was kind of like, I don't know, like the crowd wasn't like stunned or anything. It was kind of just like we'll see how this plays out. But in my mind, I was just like, the one thing to me for it to be a close game was New Zealand to get out to a good start, especially playing on the road. And once they did, I'm like, okay, we might be on here. And straight away, I was kind of just like, could they actually do this thing? Like, you never really know, especially with this series, what the opposition team's going to come out to, like the road team. This series was all over the shop, so I honestly didn't know what was going to happen. That was obviously the topic at hand with everyone you kind of spoke to, like, what's actually going to happen? But yeah, I was actually glad they came out to a hot start, because to me, in my mind, it meant that it was going to be a close finish regardless, and it definitely was.
100%. I mean, it was a battle. You're going into halftime, not knowing what's going on. About 5-6 minutes to go. Sydney's down by 8, I think it was, or 6, and Angus Glover shoots a rush three-pointer with 3 seconds left off the back side of the backboard. grabs his own rebound and gets a dunk. A timeout is called. They walk to the bench. How big was that play?
Oh yeah, huge. I think he in general was just huge. Like, and then after the game, it came out. I didn't actually see the play that happened, but in person, he was clearly showing some sort of like discomfort in his ribs or something like that. To the point where even after that dunk, I'm pretty sure he walked to the bench half like not celebrating, but half like happy with his play and happy with the team's play. But then he was just like hunched over, like something was clearly going on. And but then it was quite amazing how he was the one that kind of came up with the big shot after big shot. So yeah, shout out to him because that must have been hard to do.
100%. I mean, he comes in, hits a 3 after that. Sydney goes on a 13-0 run, which it's unbelievable to watch because that is Sydney Kings basketball. You talk about all year as a player and as a coach, you watch teams and you say, what's their identity? What do they do well? How do they play? What do they stick with when things go hard? When the team's struggling, all the other teams playing well, how do you get yourself out of it? Do you trust the process and do you stick with it? Like, do you freak out? Does coach start screaming when usually he's quiet, or does he go quiet when he's usually screaming? Do the players mix up the on-ball defensive coverage? Do they start taking different shots? Right, this is the chaos that occurs inside a game. But you see a team right now that's built a system where the coach is going to do exactly what the coach is going to do. The players are going to do exactly what the players are going to do, which is they're going to push the tempo. They're going to play fast. They're going to take quick shots. They're going to play deep drops on the on ball with a big stand inside 2 feet inside the key and let guys shoot it over them with the guard chasing hard. And they're going to do this, do or die. And when push comes to shove with 4 minutes left in the biggest game of the season, game 5, they keep pushing that tempo when shots haven't been dropping. They keep playing that defense and trust that these tough shots that New Zealand are shooting, they're going to let Will White try and beat them, and it comes out in the end with them pushing the tempo and them making plays. And I think that's something that not only is life, but translates basketball life. Like, you got to stick with what you do well, and it's going to work out in the end if you truly trust that process, and also if that process is a good process. Obviously, some are going to be better than others. And it was really cool to. I didn't watch the game live, but I went back and watched the game to see that play out and see those plays, and then obviously they held it out in the last couple minutes to get that win.
Yeah. Was there any other like standout performances to you besides from Glover? I was just going to quickly touch on. It was cool just to see Xavier Cooks actually put together like a Xavier Cooks type game. Like, I think he'll happily admit that he was struggling compared to his usual standards, and he had that injury concern. It was just cool, like in that moment for the MVP. Because like it would have been a weird feeling if the entire series he was kind of like kept quiet. And I think he actually said to the guys after the game that Jarrell Brantley had his number the entire series. So I think he had 19 and 11 in that last game. So he was one I was just like, this is a good story. Like, off to the NBA now, obviously. Finish on a high note. Championship would have been high enough, but just on an individual performance, I think that was cool.
I 100% agree. I think one of the biggest problems with media, and especially analysts that talk about the game, is they undersell the importance of everyone. And it starts from the top end, from the NBA, where guys are always talking about LeBron James and Damian Lillard and Luka Doncic and their household names. So every time they release something about them, especially if it's controversial, they'll get retweets, they'll get likes on Instagram, people will watch it, and this effect has trickled down to where in the reality, it's not winning basketball. Like, it's 10% of the picture. And I'm not even talking about game performances. I'm talking about the ability for Sydney and New Zealand to play fast, to play physical, translates to trainings, to how quality the guys are that are sitting on that bench, not even getting minutes, how quality to the DPs when they're coming in and pushing the starters in practice. And you look at this series, really defines that this series wasn't about Sydney Kings winning through Cooks or even the finals MVP. This series was about Quatnoy coming in and winning a big game. Geordie Hunter stepping up and making blocks, doing dunks, bringing energy when he's had DMP, like games where he's played 5 minutes throughout the season. You know, you got Angus Glover making game-winning plays with 4 minutes to go, who last year was facing injuries. This year's been battling in and out. And so these guys that have been training, that have been helping those starters win games, even if it's not on the court, step up and win a championship for the club. It's no one was talking about these guys' names heading into the playoffs, ourselves included, right? And you can have guys like DJ who doesn't score in Game 5, or you know, Tim Soers is just consistently doing his thing, and it really is a team effort, and sometimes we don't emphasize it enough, but hey, like a team effort won a championship and helped these guys go back to back.
Yeah, nah, for sure. Even someone like Jalen Galloway, like he gets in, does his job. He probably does a lot more than people kind of realize, I reckon. Like he probably, if you ask Chase or whoever to talk about him, they'd probably identify a lot more things, like even his defensive assignment or stuff like that. He'd probably identify a lot more things than the average like punter or viewer would notice, which I really like as well. Yeah, it was just a really cool series, really cool finish. The fact that it went to Game 5. Anything more to add to that before we jump into life in Germany, maybe?
Nah, other than, I tell you what, great season in terms of both semi-finals went to Game 3. The finals went to Game 5. What more could you ask for in an NBL season? And then we said this in the playoffs, I said this earlier, is every single team finished exactly where their regular season played them out to be. So Sydney first, New Zealand second. We ended up coming third, Cairns fourth, and it played out the way that the best team at the end of the regular season ended up finishing exactly where they ended up finishing.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, isn't it? There was just one. I just wanted to quickly shout out McDowell White in that first half, especially. I've said it numerous times. If there's anyone I want to like put it all together, to be consistent, to be consistently confident, aggressive, it's him. And he had a few plays earlier on. He hit his first 2 threes, I think. And there was one drive especially, he kind of was like feeling it a little, drove down and then scored with contact against someone. I can't remember who it was. I think it was one of Sydney's bigs, but I was shooting photo then, not video. So I caught a few stills of him just like, he literally got up from that contact layup and looked at the big guy who he just scored on, and he kind of just like smirked to himself, and it was almost just like a moment like, and you could see him smiling, and it was kind of just like a moment like, hey, I can actually do this, like I'm that good. So I still want him to piece it all together, and just New Zealand in general. Fantastic season. Everyone knows the storyline. Everyone knows what they've been through, but I just think they were a super likable team. So I hope their imports, at least a few of them, or at least one of them, run it back and come back and see what they can do.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just because they lost the grand final, you can't take away what they did all season. Game 5, down to the wire. Epic season by all of them. Jared Brantley, incredible season. I see some comments about him not making a first or second team, which, I like that conversation, that argument, but their whole team put together a special piece that is worthy of applause, and congratulations to everyone involved from another great season to another great NBL finals.
Here's one for you. You can only bring one New Zealand import back. Who is it?
Oh, the big fella. I think he's special.
Yeah.
Pardon the way he rolls and the energy he plays with. There's not many. He might be the most consistently hardest working big man I've ever seen in terms of like his ability to run the floor, crash rebounds, roll hard, show on ball defense. He's a winner.
Ever.
He's
Ever.
In the NBL in terms of like at his size, definitely. There's been some other great workers. You got John Mooney for Perth. You had Jacob Wiley for Adelaide 36ers, guys that were relentless, but he's up there with the best of them. So,
good shout.
What about you?
It's
a great question.
I think it's Jarrell Brantley for me. I don't know. I think just like what he brings. I think for some reason, like, I obviously wouldn't know that much, but I think the culture, like, I reckon just like his attitude and how how intense he is at times, and then all the little things he does on court, offense, defense. I think he's just kind of like that full package. That if you bring him back, he would just be like a great sort of culture guy, in my mind, anyway.
For sure. So we'll quickly break down what's happening now in the NBL. So there's a week break, and then free agency starts. And so technically the rules are you're not allowed to talk to anyone until that free agency starts. But it's like all things in the world. Rules are there to be broken. That's what it's all about. And so people are talking. That's how it's going on, whether it's agents dropping sneaky little letters or whatever it is. That's sport. That's life. That's competition. But that will start, and then we're going to have a crazy shake-up. But we're about to get into Germany. But I have one question for you.
I got one for you as well afterwards.
Oh, good. What's going to be? Do you have any free agency predictions? Any big move hitters? Will be back with the New Zealand Breakers? Any exciting? Any predictions that you would like to make?
I was definitely gonna run with the McDowell White one. I reckon after everything he's been through in New Zealand and coming as close as he did, I can't really see a world where he doesn't go back there. He seems like he's loved there. He seems like the type to kind of like be loyal and stick it out with them. I don't think that's any crazy prediction, but that's one I reckon will happen. And Keanu Pinder, I really don't know what's going to happen with him, to be honest. The question unless you got a free agency prediction.
I do. I was just going to quickly say that I saw on Twitter last night the Keanu Pinder and I've forgotten his name. The power forward, smooth for Cairns as well. It's early here. In Germany. Yeah, Hogan,
DJ Hogue.
Hogan. Yeah, DJ Hogue and Keanu to Sydney Kings. So this is what I saw on Twitter last night, and this shows how relentless this business is. It hasn't even been 48 hours after winning a championship, and next year's already being talked about. Free agents are working, GMs are in the lab. So who knows if that's true? Complete rumors, but it's an interesting one. And then with the Will White, he will not be back in New Zealand. I don't think
he won't be.
He's an Australian boy, and Australians love Australia. So that's my prediction, and we don't know where that will play out. But he had a great season, and some money will be his, which is well deserved. Not many Australian point guards that start in the NBL and run a team.
Was that like a sneaky pitch to Tassie, or just Australian team in general?
Oh, maybe I'm putting in some early work right now on the podcast, but who knows, man?
I was going to say before, when you said rules are meant to be broken, I was like, all right, go on, make a pitch for one player. Give us a spiel for who you want, but no, it's not
LeBron James. No.
Wow. All right, that's different. Germany. Let's go to Germany. I don't know how many games you've played since we've spoke, but I don't think we even covered your first win. But give us an update.
Okay, so we are currently 1-1. First game was on the road. We got smoked. It was a tough one. There's some different reffing rules. It's more physical than the NBL, so I had to get used to that. A lot of wrestling and grappling. You're allowed to use your hands. We were down by about 15 at halftime and could never bring it back. Then we're at home a week later, so we only play about one game a week here. And we're versing a playoff team. So there's 18 teams in this league. 8 teams make the playoffs out of the 18. Okay. And so this team's come fifth. And we got it done. It was a great fought battle. I ended up having 14, 7, and 2. Hit a nice little fadeaway with 2 minutes to go to put us up by 5.
Lovely.
And the crowd was rocking. It was 5,000 people sold out. They had the drums going. There's a lot more chants in Europe than there is in Australia. Like organized chants, the singing and the screaming in organized ways. We got the win. I think it was the highest team win we've gotten this season. So it puts us, I think, to 7-16, 15. Okay. But no, an exciting spot. And then afterwards, there was some different traditions. So we sat down on the floor. One of the players took over the mic, led a little bit of like a hype up, and then everyone in the stadium starts to dance. So players
Wow.
included, everyone in the stadium, we jump up, some music starts playing, and we start jumping around and doing a little jig. So that was a cool experience, but it was rocking in there. Today I travel, so everything is done by bus over here. So I got a 6.5 hour bus ride. So
Wow.
so after this is filmed, I'll go to training, jump on a 6.5 hour bus, play tomorrow, and then right after the game, jump on another 6.5 hour bus ride back to the crib. But Germany's doing well. We're
Wow.
locking in. We're training every day hard, and we obviously have some exciting news to share with you guys, Darren. Hit it
We
away.
do, we do. I'll lead it. Yeah, Darren is officially coming to Germany, so we booked our flights. Exciting news. I think it is exciting because yeah, we were kind of like overthinking it for a bit. We got in our heads about a few things, but you just have to do these things. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be good. We can start sort of, I don't know, thinking about what it's actually gonna be like. And Jack's got a bed for me. He's got everything. So I think it's yeah, it's gonna be a really cool experience. So hopefully it comes up quick and. At the end of our little holiday, I'll call it, Jess is coming over as well. So all things worked out. You laughing?
Epic, epic. It's going to be an exciting time, and your grandpa has a castle.
Yeah, so I was talking to my mum, and then he's just like, she's just like, oh, your oppa, which is what we call my grandpa. He's just like, oh, your oppa has a recommendation that you have to see when you're in Germany, and excuse my pronunciation, but Neuschwanstein Castle is where we must visit. Apparently, it's amazing. I don't know why it's amazing or why it's any different, but oppa, if you're listening, we will go visit that.
On a side note, I have an interesting fact about Germany.
Okay.
And so it is relevant, actually, but we're going to have to break into why your grandpa has a castle. And secondly, there are actually 20,000 castles in Germany. Most castles in the
Holy
world.
cow.
So I don't know if it was due to a lot of fighting back in the heyday. I'm not sure. But why does your grandpa have a castle?
Okay, there's been some miscommunication. It's not his castle. It's
Oh.
just a castle. I was like, no, that's not it. That's not it at all. He just has a landmark. He likes yeah, he's obviously been or heard the good things. So I wish he owned a castle though.
I was about to say, is Darren about to be treated like royalty when he shows up in Germany?
No, not that I'm aware of. Well, I don't know. I hate to, judge your place there, but it looks pretty nice. It's close enough to
Yeah.
royalty, right?
There you go. You have a chair, you have a bed, king of the castle.
Perfect. I've got a few questions about firstly the chants. What are they chanting? Is it in English or is it just like sort of like your team name or team? I don't know. You don't know?
No, none of it is in English. So, like when I was
Okay.
warming up before the game, they're showing some NBL highlights and some like my stats and talking to me about me. None of it is in English. The chants, none of it's in English. We walk around and high five the crowd afterwards, and I got no idea what anyone's saying. I've just become quickly professional at nodding and smiling. So that's kind of how it goes.
Very nice. And did they tell you about the perfect? Did they tell you about the dance afterwards? Is that like a victory dance only, or did they just start doing it?
No, so it is a thing, and it is a victory dance. And so I was sitting there, I was after the game, I was like high five, and I was like, so what happens now? Like, every team's a little different. I was like, are we about to warm down, or we go back to the locker room? And one of the Americans, looks at me and goes, "Oh, we dance." And I thought he was joking. And so we take a seat. I start stretching, and next thing you know, everyone jumps up and everyone's jumping around, dancing and doing their moves. And I was like, "This is crazy." But I'm definitely trying to get some
great.
more wins at home so we can get our dance on together.
I'm gonna have to film that while I'm over there, or just get some footage of it. Regardless, gotta see
Definitely.
that. Also, 6 hour bus ride. What's your bus entertainment? What do the players do? Do they just talk? Do they do their own thing?
I have no idea. This is my first time,
Haven't
but
done it yet? Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't done it yet. The away game was an hour before last time, so not sure. But this time they told me bring a pillow, bring a little doona if you need. For me, I'm going to do some writing. I'm going to do some writing, do some reading. I'll be annoying everyone on Instagram because I've got 12 hours over the next 2 days to make some content.
Lovely. We're laughing. That's nothing but a good thing. All right, hype someone up. Who have you got? Hype someone up. I just want to hype someone up. Go on a bit of a rant. Anyone that's caught our attention, just give him some love.
Gonna hype up Darren because I loved looking at the NBL. We're just talking about something small that made me smile. But if anyone follows the Instagram of the NBL religiously, was just the Darren standing there with the sign New Zealand or Sydney, and obviously he was in Sydney and the same thing, and all the comments made me laugh. I was like, this guy's relentless. Who is this guy? What is going on? And it was just I think one of those great skits. So I found it hilarious, especially because usually you show people talking, but they just showed everyone walking past him. Like, who is this dude and what is he doing? And I thought it was an awesome idea. And you were telling me that you were going to do it and you executed it, and I found it hilarious. So I'm going to hype you up for that. That's the content that I like to see. People sometimes, I think, take sport a little bit too seriously, and it was good to see you there with the sign, having a laugh, and the comments and people enjoyed it.
I was wondering if you were going to bring that up. I was like, I actually forgot about it because, I don't know, it hasn't been that long, but it was quite funny. Like, so for some reason, it's a social media trend where people just hold up like those classic cardboard signs with like thick black markers on them, and we were trying to think of something to sort of put on the board where there was something controversial, something more whatever. But we just went with New Zealand or Sydney. When we were over there, we're just like, we might as well do it. And I put my hand up because there weren't that many people that could kind of do it because other people had other things to do, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. So it was a bit awkward. People looked at me like I was protesting something, but I'm like, nah, just promoting a basketball game.
That's awesome. It's awesome. It was good stuff.
Mine is Alan Williams this week. So not for his playing ability, not for anything like that. I don't know if you follow him on Twitter, but he's been like fully locked in to the NBL, just like tweeting about the Grand Final Series, he was tweeting about Dan Greeter resigning on a 2-year deal yesterday or something. I just really like that an import like him, he's coming back to the league. He's obviously getting more and more invested in it. And I think he's just in America tweeting from his home about any NBL news and sort of like analysis that comes up. So I just found that really cool.
No, that is cool. That's locked in. That's exciting. I mean, it's an awesome league, and it's cool when you see imports really excited to come back and a team put their trust in them, bring them back, know that they're providing good stuff, and it'll be exciting to see him back in the league next year. Now, I this week don't have any rate or hates, this or that, or hot takes. Do you have some to take us home?
I do. I was going to say there is a thing that has been said around a few of my colleagues that NBL imports that no longer play still keep a very close eye on the league, and there's a few that I see pop up. A fair few just like liking our stuff or like commenting on it or watching it. And one of those names is Sean Long, which I kind of just find interesting because he's been like removed from the league a fair few years now. I just find it cool that clearly the NBL still has an impression on these guys, and they're off doing whatever they're doing, but they're still kind of locked into the content and making comments here and there. But yes, I do have some rate or hates.
Well, real quickly, I'll jump in there real quick. Sean Long is actually currently playing in Japan with Sam Froling. So they are teammates right now, locked in, and I think with fellow Aussie Brock Modem. So Sean Long is stuck with the Aussies. He's clearly, he enjoys hanging around them, and he is playing in Japan with Sam Froling right now, doing their thing.
That's kind of cool. I like that insight. Rate or hate?
Great question. I hate it, man. I hate it.
Right.
And that's not what this segment is called.
On the topic of flying, so my New Zealand and Sydney travels, I still don't know how I feel about planes, and specifically taking off. So do you rate or hate taking off flying when you're flying? Do you like that feeling?
You're right. Now, I've been flying for so long and so many times that for me, I love flying. It knocks me out. I'm a sleeper, so the second that plane starts moving, my head, kind of the momentum pushes me back into that seat, and I fall. I'm out. I'm out for the whole flight. What about yourself?
That's great. That's a professional flyer talking to like a rookie flyer, because I haven't done anywhere near as many flights as you. But yeah, I don't know. I still get a bit not anxious, but just like it's just a weird feeling when you're not used to it. But hey, I'll be coming to Germany soon. Longer flights. Maybe I'll be more used to it by the time I come back.
30 hours of travel will have you prepared.
That sounds extremely interesting. That'll be different. All right. So the other one I had was this was a while ago, but Giannis Antetokounmpo, he was like 1 rebound off a triple double, and he intentionally, basically, there was like 10 seconds left in the game, and he literally just like threw it off the backboard to himself when no one else was trying at all, purely to get the triple double. And I was just wondering whether you rated or hated that.
I have no idea. Oh, I don't. It's so interesting because he is one of like the. We talk about like people love to talk about Kobe mindset and all that jazz, but like then don't really live it. But he lives it. He trains hard every day. He's bought in. You can see his improvement. He's relentless. And I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't think I love it. But it's the NBA. Like he might have bonuses in his contract. He might, media loves triple doubles. He's probably chasing another MVP. And so I'm never going to judge. I personally wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. But saying that, I haven't been in a situation in the NBL where I've got 15 points, 9 rebounds, and 10 assists, and maybe I would do it. So I don't. Ideally, right now, I say I don't rate it. I don't love it. But if he's got something in his contract, then I would rate it. What about yourself?
Yeah, you actually never know these days. But I don't really know. I kind of hate it. But a part of me thinks he has a good like sense of humor. So I feel like a part of me knows that he would. No, a part of me thinks that he would just be doing it to kind of get a laugh from people. Like he knows it would kind of blow up online, and in his head, he's probably just like chuckling about it to himself. So I reckon he did it almost to mock the situation, but you never know.
Nah, for sure. He is a funny dude, and there's a lot of stuff he doesn't take seriously. So you could be on the money with that.
Wow, this is a negative space. I'm just gonna start chucking up random things I'm grateful for.
This is incredible. This is the best grateful for I've ever heard.
My one, so I'm just grateful for family because it's a big milestone this week coming up. It's my brother's wedding. Him and the lovely, Michael and Elise getting married. If any of you are listening to this, I don't know, shout out. I'll be there, obviously. But yeah, obviously a big occasion, and it's come up bloody quick. So they're doing it their own way, more of like a casual sort of setting. But I really like that for them because sometimes I think like weddings are kind of like stressful for both participants, so to speak. And this way, I reckon they're going to enjoy it a lot more. So yeah, grateful for family.
That's epic. That's epic. I love that. It's going to be a fun wedding. Weddings are beautiful and they're always a good time. So enjoy that this week.
Yeah, I was just writing a little speech this afternoon. Just something casual, but I feel like I should say, a few words about my brother getting married. So a bit of pressure there, but I'm sure it'll be fine. This podcast has prepared me for public speaking. Don't you worry. That's
good. You'll be ready to go. So if you can get any footage of your speech, then flick it through.
I'll just maybe I'll just bring this Rode microphone with me, so I feel like I'm in place.
Yep, there you go. That's good. I like it. Well, for me, my grateful for this week is I'll set the scene a little bit, but Game 5 and watching it, it's kind of a crappy day, to be honest. Like for me, it's a weird emotions. You watch the game and you see the celebrations and you just like it hurts. It was a down day for me. That's where I want to be and that's what I want to be doing, and I want to win the whole thing and have that feeling and do it for for Tassie and for my friends that are kind of on the team, whoever they may be in that moment. And so it kind of sucked, watching it kind of sucked and it's not fun. And seeing this, I had to get off social media because I was like, I don't want to, because I follow everyone that's on winning it and losing it. And I was like, I don't want to see this stuff. And so I'm actually just grateful for today to be young enough to give it another crack. Next year we get to go out there and we get to try and do it all again. So I'm grateful for just another chance to go try and win that championship and grab one of those rings for myself.
I love it. It is an underrated sort of thing about athletes in the NBL watching Game 5 like that. Like it would, like you said, it would hurt. It would probably motivate you at the same time. But yeah, it'd be a weird time sort of watching the guys you've just competed with for a whole season win it all, and you're not there. But like you said, grateful for more opportunities to do so.
100%, 100%. Have you got anything to finish us out?
I got nothing. WNBL Finals Championship. I don't know what they call theirs. I'm just going to call it WNBL Grand Final Series. That starts tonight, so more basketball on the way. But yeah, super cool. I think the end of season is always a good time for anyone to reflect, whether it's staff, whether it's players, whatever. It's a good time to reflect and hopefully take some time off as well. So yeah, Germany it is. That's our next thing.
I like it. Well, going forward with this podcast, particularly in the off season, I think my idea, and we haven't really talked to you much about this, is I think next podcast we hit one where it's a full you interview me completely about the season, about the updates, about the future, about next year. So it'll be an interview style podcast, and then throughout the off season, we're going to do some interviews. So we're going to bring some people on, bring some guests, bring some NBL guys, talk to them about what they enjoy, hang out with some friends, and then we might do one or two to give juicy updates on free agency and catch up on that. What's your thoughts with kind of that plan? We've texted about it a little bit, but I'm putting this out on the podcast because if anyone has any ideas or what you would like to hear or who you would want to listen to on the podcast or interview, or if you have any questions for the interview next week, then this is all the input that we want.
Yeah, you read my mind actually, because I was going to be like, if anyone has any suggestions on who they want to see, what they want to hear, what they want to hear from you next week, I think that's perfect to get some more input out there. So more than happy to be the interviewer next week. And yeah, the off season will be fun. We haven't done this podcast during off season. We can do some new things, get some different guests on, and yeah, just chop it up about anything and everything basketball. Epic. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Another great NBL finals season, all concluded. Enjoy your guys' off season. Tune into some NBL 1 if you're bored. I know there's going to be some good games. My brother's playing for South in Adelaide. Everyone's floating around everywhere, so it's always good to watch. But enjoy your NBL off season, and I can't wait for it to all begin again.